Greetings, this is Mr. Beckstrom, and today we're going to be talking about Chapter 2, 2 U.S. Customary Units and Unit Conversion. So in this section, we're going to be introducing the unity fraction method, which will include unities. This method was devised to solve conversion problems. It says with no chance of error, but there's always that human error. What is a unity fraction? Well, it's a fraction that links two units together, two units that are equal. So for example, 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So we can create a unity fraction with that, with either 1 yard over 3 feet or 3 feet over 1 yard. And since those two things are equal, when you divide them, you get 1. So we're going to say they're equivalent to 1. And we can use these in problems in order to help us solve. All right, so let's look at an example here. Let's say they say convert 42 feet to yards. Since we start with feet and we're going to end in yards, we need to find a unity fraction that has both feet and yards if possible. Sometimes it's not possible to go directly from one unit to the other, and we're going to look at an example of that next. But for now, we can go ahead and go to our book, and it is on page 105. We'll see that under length units, it goes from 1 yard to 3 feet. So we can use that equality or equivalency in order to set up a unity fraction. And very important, so important I put it in red. We need to make sure that we choose the unit in the numerator, which is the one that we're going to eventually solve for. That's our unknown. The first unity fraction that we're going to set up, the denominator's unit will have to have the same unit as our original unit. And the reason being is that we're going to want to cancel units out. And in order to cancel units out, we need the same unit from both the top and the bottom of a fraction in order to cancel them out. So when we start with our known units, which is 42 feet, we're first going to want to set up a unity fraction that has feet on the bottom, and that's really important to make sure that we can go through this process and come out with the correct answer. So we already know we have an equivalency of 1 yard and 3 feet. So since I'm starting with feet, I'm going to put the 3 feet on the bottom so that those feet will cancel out. And then I just set up my problem here. So 42 feet times, and we're always going to multiply these together, times 1 yard over 3 feet. Now notice that the feet will cancel out. It'll just leave us the yard, which is what we want. That's what we're trying to find out. So we want to cancel out everything except for what we're trying to find out, our unknown quantity. So those feet cancel out, so we're going to get 42 times 1 yard, which is 42 yards, divided by 3, and that's just equal to 14 yards. So there's some problems on page 106 if you want to try those to make sure you can get some other ones. Now let's take a look at an example when we're going to need more than one unity fraction. And we're going to need more than one unity fraction when we're going to need more than one step going from the known quantity to the unknown quantity. For example, if we don't have something here that says 1 yard is equal to 3 feet, hopefully we'll have enough that we can kind of connect them together until we get to where we need to go. So I did an example here. Let's take a look at that. So I need to find out how many tablespoons are in 3 gallons. If I go to page 105 and I look at tablespoons, it looks like it gives it to me in teaspoons. I also see one with fluid ounces, but I don't have one that goes directly from the tablespoons to gallons. I also have a gallons that goes to quarts and goes to fluid ounces. So I'm going to have to kind of piece these together. So it's important that we start with what we know. So what do we know? We know we have 3 gallons. So I go to my next page here, and I'm going to first write down 3 gallons because that gives it to me in the problem. The next thing I want to do is I want to find a unity fraction that has gallons in the denominator, in the bottom of the fraction, because I'm going to need to cancel those gallons out. And in the top, since I don't have the tablespoons that I was looking for, I need something that eventually is going to get me to tablespoons. And if you notice, if you look at that page 105, with the 1 gallon, you can either use 4 quarts or 128 fluid ounces. Looking around in this, I also see that they talk about ounces, and they connect the ounces directly with the tablespoons. So I'm going to use the ounces here. Now, if I could have used the quarts, then I could have gone from, if you look at that line, you can go from quarts to ounces, and then ounces to tablespoons, but it looks like that's going to be a little bit longer. So this one, I can go from gallons to ounces, and then ounces to tablespoons. So if you see, I set it up. So the very first thing I did was used my unity fraction with gallons and fluid ounces. And then I have a fluid ounce on the top, which I don't want, so I'm going to have to eliminate that. So my next unity fraction will have to have a fluid ounce in the denominator in order to eliminate that. So I choose the fluid ounce, which is 1 fluid ounce is equivalent to 2 tablespoons, which is great because tablespoons is what I need. Those units will cancel out. Multiply all the top terms together, 3 times 128 times 2, and I'm still left with the tablespoons, which is my unknown quantity. And then on the bottom, all the units cancel out. I'm just left with 1 times 1, which is 1, and that comes out to 768 tablespoons. So try some of these on page 107. And next, we're going to talk a little bit about compound units. Compound units are when we take these basic units and we combine them. And then there's a lot of things that will take into account more than one basic unit. One of the most common things is speed. And I wrote this down here. So when we talk about speed, we're talking about miles per hour. Both miles and hour are units, and we use both of those in order to describe speed. Now, when I say miles per hour, whatever comes after that word per, that goes on the bottom of my fraction. So miles would be on the top, hours would be on the bottom. And if you look in the book, you'll find some other examples. Go ahead and try your turn on page 110. It'll ask you to identify some compound units. Remember, you're looking for those units that use more than one type of unit. All right. Let's then go into area units. So area units are generally going to be given with either the term square, or it's going to have an exponent of 2 in that unit. So if you look on page 111, you'll see that most of those units either say square unit, like square foot or square yard or square rod, or they have like a yard with a little 2 exponent, foot with a little 2 exponent. So that indicates that that's going to be an area unit. Now there's some exceptions there. If you look at acre, acre doesn't have a square term or a exponent because the word acre was defined as a term in terms of area. So generally you'll see that square term or that exponent, but there are some cases, for example, acre, which you just have to know that word describes an area. So let's go ahead and look at an example of that. Convert 5 square rods to square inches. And once again, notice that we don't have a direct connection going from square rods to square inches on our table here. It looks like if we start with square rods, we can go to acres, we can go to yards. That's about it that I can see here. So we kind of see, well, which one of those is going to get us to our square inches? Well, definitely inches are smaller than rods, so I'm probably going to work in that direction from larger to smaller. The acres is actually larger than a rod, so that would be kind of working in the wrong direction. So I'm going to choose to work with the 1 square rod is equal to 30.25 square yards. Set that up as my first unity fraction. You notice that I put the square rods on the bottom, so it'll cancel out with the square rods from our known quantity. And then, like we did previous, my next unity fraction, I'm going to have to put something on the bottom of that to eliminate the numerator unit, the square yards. And I do have a conversion that goes directly from square yards to square inches. That's 1 square yard is equal to 1,296 square inches. So I use that as my unity fraction. Everything will cancel out. That's how I designed the problem to work. So that way the only unit left is my square inches. Multiply all the tops, all the bottoms, divide, and I'm left with 196,020 square inches. All right, so try some of those problems on page 111. Make sure you can do some of those. Next is volume units. These are just like area units, except they're talking about three-dimensional space. Instead of square, they'll use the term cubic. Instead of an exponent of 2 for that unit, they'll use an exponent of 3. And you convert them pretty much the same way. So go ahead and try to do some of those on page 112. If you have any questions, feel free to call me during my office hours, send me an email, and let me know a good time for me to give you a call, or I can answer some of those questions directly through the email. And once again, thanks so much. This is Mr. Beckstrom. Have a great day.